Hi, this is Miss St. James, and I'm going to read the part from We Beat the Streets that we'll be reading in class on Thursday, May 21st and Friday, May 22nd. So anyone who can't make it, here's what you miss. We're going to read chapter 16 from We Beat the Streets. This is the pre-college summer program. So the boys have been accepted into the Seton Hall University, and before they go, they're doing a summer program to get them used to college, especially because they're the first people in their families to go to college, and to help them be ready for the college level science and math classes. Well, no summer jobs for us this year, Ramick said as he tossed a pair of gym shoes into a suitcase. George and Samson had already finished packing. They were all leaving the next day for 7 weeks on the Seton Hall campus to participate in a remediation, that means extra help, and preparation program required for all students accepted into the pre-medical, pre-dental plus program. Only 10 people got accepted into the program this year, George commented. There won't be much of a chance of slipping out of class unnoticed. That's cool. The three of us are together. Man, college. Who would have thought it? Ramick said with feeling. Are you sorry you're not going to Howard, Ramick? Samson asked. Hey man, Seton Hall is free. Howard costs money. Free is always a good choice. Besides, you're going to need me if you decide to play some hoops on the weekends, he replied with a laugh. Well, you better bring your A game. I have some new moves I can show both of you, Samson said. Besides, I have to stay in shape. Tryouts for the baseball team are this fall. When they got to campus, they were pleasantly surprised by their dormitory rooms. Each air-conditioned and completed room and carpeted room had 2 beds, a telephone, and a desk. Cool, Ramick whispered as he tossed his stuff on the bed on the left. He roomed with Samson. George had been placed in a room right across the hall with another one of the students in the program. The next morning at 7, the program began with full intensity. Carla Dixon stood in front of the group and said boldly, "You are doctors. You hear me? You are doctors. You have to believe it to achieve it. Never forget what you really are. Doctors. All doctors begin by knowing nothing. They study, they learn, they prepare, and they achieve their goals. So believe it, ladies and gentlemen. You are doctors. Believe it and achieve it." She said nothing more, but began to pass out the schedule of classes for the week. Samson, George, and Ramick looked at each other across the classroom and grinned. No one had ever given them such affirmation, that means encouragement, before. No one had ever given them permission to dream so large or visualize the possibility of success in that way. They were scheduled for pre-calculus, biology, chemistry, computer skills, English, and critical thinking courses. The courses were intense and demanding, with no tolerance for the sloppy work and careless attitudes of high school. You can do better, Ramick, one professor told him. So he did. No one had ever pushed him like that before. You will not miss an assignment, Samson, another professor insisted. Samson accepted the challenge and never missed one. Classes lasted every day until 5, and after dinner they went to required tutoring sessions where each student got help in areas of need. Their test scores began to rise. In the evening, the students were required to study. No television was allowed during study hours, and bedtime was mandatory at 10 p.m., which none of them liked very much. This feels like boot camp, Samson whispered to Ramick one night after lights out. But it feels kind of good. It's like doing push-ups with my brain. Doctors, imagine us as physicians. I think we can do this, Samson replied. I don't know, man. Seems like a pretty tall mountain to climb, but I didn't expect to even be close to the mountain, so who knows how it's going to happen. So who knows what's going to happen, Ramick admitted. Carla's cool, though. She makes it seem like we can do this. It's like we are her 3 sons, her personal challenge and responsibility. I like the fact that she cares and believes in us. You sure can't get away with that stuff, with any stuff around her, Ramick said. She's like a little dynamo. She's here before we get up, and she stays a long time after classes are over. She told me she's determined to see all 3 of us make it through. Yeah, she told me the same thing, Samson chuckled. She said that helping the 3 of us make it, even when we think we can't, is one of her own personal goals. I'm scared not to do what she says, Ramick replied with a laugh. That little bitty thing might bite me in the kneecaps. A couple of weeks later, after Ramick had complained about the rigors of the program one too many times for Carla, she stopped him after class. You know what your problem is, Ramick? She said angrily. No, but I bet you're going to tell me, he replied with a smile that tried to melt a little of her anger. You are just plain lazy. You think this is hard? Wait until you're pulling a 24-hour shift and as a resident in a hospital. Wait until you hold someone's life in your hands, and that person is depending on you, to have the skill and knowledge to save his life. She whipped back into her lecturing voice. Strict personal discipline and adherence to rules are absolutely necessary for a doctor's success. She glared at him. I'm not lazy, Ramick replied sullenly. Just not used to all this discipline. Well, get used to it, Carla snapped back at him. You're one of the brightest young men I've ever met. Discipline won't kill you. Carelessness will. Emmett grinned at her again. Do you know how little you are? He said as he looked down at her, a smile on his face. I'm big enough to knock some sense into you, she tossed back at him. Yeah, you're probably right, Remick admitted. I'm sorry, Carla. I'm going to try harder. Scared of me, aren't you? Carla teased him. Remick laughed out loud. Not even a little bit, but I respect you a lot. Carla always seemed to know exactly when the three young men from Newark what the three young men from Newark needed on any given day. Sometimes she'd yell, other times she'd tease, and many times she'd just offer honest encouragement when the going got rough. In Carla's class later that week, a class called Becoming a Master Student, the assignment was to write an acceptance speech for an award they had received as doctors. What kind of award? Sampson asked. So this is like pretend. They're pretending that they got an award and they're writing their speech. What kind of award? Sampson asked. Maybe you saved more lives than anyone else in your hospital, so they decide to give you an award. What would you say? I'd just say, aren't you glad you have me around here? Sampson said with a laugh. I expect more from that for this assignment. Carla said, your speech must be at least 5 minutes long, and it must include honest thoughts about your accomplishments and sincere appreciation. When it was time to get up, George, who didn't like to speak in front of groups, gave the best speech, and the whole class agreed later. I'm very honored, he said, to receive this award, but I do not take credit for my success alone. I couldn't have reached this goal if not for the help of all of you in this hospital, from the custodial staff to the secretaries on the floors, to the other doctors and nurses and medical professionals. Patient care here is a group effort, and all of us must share in the success of each of us. We work not for each other, but for our patients. When he finished, the other students stood and applauded. Save that speech, Remick yelled from the back of the room. In 15 years, you may get to use it. Everyone laughed, but George took the whole thing very seriously. One day in Carla's class, the conversation turned to personal appearance. Doctors have to look like doctors, one student said. They should wear dress pants and button-down shirts and always wear a tie. What do the rest of you think? Carla asked. I think a doctor ought to look like a regular person, Sampson said. I ain't changing my style just because I'm going to school with a bunch of kids that roll around in money. You'd wear those baggy jeans and sweats to a hospital? Another student asked. Why not? Sampson challenged. What's wrong with them? Looks ghetto, the student mumbled, afraid of Sampson's response. If I live in the hood and I work in the hood, then my patients will think I'm dressed appropriately, don't you think? Sampson replied, a dangerous tone of anger in his voice. After all, it's part of my culture and who I am. I think patients will respect us if we don't try to pretend to be something we never were. As long as we give good patient care, what difference does it make what we wear while we're doing it? Remick added. I think a patient might be glad to see we understand where he's coming from. He might be more likely to trust us than it's someone who comes in with designer pants and shoes, George said. I'm talking to a kid in my dental chair and he's scared. He'll relax if I talk to him about rap music or the latest shoes or some issue from the streets. We've been there, so we know. It's all how you handle it. The rest of the class finally agreed, and the discussion helped to guide Remick, George, and Sampson as they tried to make their place in the world of college and privilege. They decided early to be true to themselves first so that they could be true to their patients later. The 7 weeks sped by quickly, and soon it was time for another graduation, this time to celebrate their entrance into college as preparation for medical school. George, Sampson, and Remick now felt a lot more confident about facing the rigors of college work and thankful that their parents and teachers could once again applaud for them as they reached another milestone. The keystone speaker that night was Dr. Francis Blackman, an African-American pulmonary specialist. This pre-medical, pre-dental plus program is an absolute necessity for our society, he said. I applaud the young men and women who have completed this phase of the program, and I heartily encourage them to continue their studies as they plan to enter into the medical fields. George, Sampson, and Remick sat proudly as they listened. Our nation's healthcare system is still a dual system, you know, Dr. Blackman continued. African Americans, other minorities, and all those classified as poor in this country still receive less than adequate treatment in facilities that are far outstripped by hospitals and clinics in wealthier neighborhoods. That means outstripped means that the other hospitals have way better equipment than the ones in the poor neighborhoods. Remick nodded, knowing what the doctor said was true. Therefore, the lifespan for African Americans and the others in that group is far shorter than their counterparts who can afford to pay for private care. America needs you, young doctors. The people who live in your communities need you desperately. I salute you for the journey you are about to undertake, not for yourselves, but for those children yet unborn who will live because you will be there for them. Sampson felt a sense of pride. as he welcomed the challenge, while Ramick felt charged, excited, and ready to take on the world. All of them showed the same glow in their eyes, the look of possibility of success on their faces. And here's a reflection from Samson, the possibility of success. Seton Hall University opened my eyes to endless possibilities. It was where I learned the power of positive peer pressure. Instead of being surrounded by negativity, the three of us were engulfed by encouragement. We were thrilled to be around so many individuals who were making positive strides in their lives. Carla and the rest of the staff believed in their students and pushed us beyond our own personal limits. I never knew I could study so much and take on so many tasks at once. Every day was a challenge, and I refused to fall short of the expectations of those around us. When the times were difficult, as they often were, Carla was there for us. She believed in our abilities long before we believed in ourselves. From the very first day, she called me Dr. Davis. Ramick she called Dr. Hunt, and George was always Dr. Jenkins. I thought that was pretty cool and helped us see ourselves as doctors, because at first I was a little uncomfortable with the title. I guess that's because I didn't initially believe in myself. Young people need positive role models and guidance in their lives. There's no underestimating the positive figure in a child's life. I wish everyone could have a Carla Dixon in his or her corner. And now you just have to answer those questions, and then you'll be all caught up.